What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is your ability to show up again today? Not louder, not flashier, just steady, just sharp, just present. Most people think success requires genius, luck, or a golden opportunity, but that's not what separates those who win for a season from those who win forever. The difference is rhythm, quiet, consistent rhythm. It's not about how loud you start, it's about how long you last. It's not about working harder once. It's about doing what matters daily, even when it feels small, even when no one's watching. You don't need another productivity hack. You need to return to your routine, to your focus, to the path you promised yourself you'd walk. Because while the world chases excitement, you build edge through repetition. While others wait for motivation, you train through the mundane. And when the silence stretches long and no applause comes, that's when the real ones rise. That's where power is forged. In this video, we'll go deep into why consistency is your greatest untapped advantage and how mastering it can sharpen your mind, protect your peace, and make your goals inevitable. If you're serious about becoming unshakable, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe so you never miss a tool for building inner strength. And if any of this resonates with where you are in life, drop your story in the comments below. I read them, I respond, and I'm walking this road with you. Let's get into it. 1. Build discipline. When no one's watching, the foundation of all success. There's a kind of strength that doesn't make noise. It doesn't show up in big speeches or dramatic efforts. It doesn't rely on praise, motivation, or accountability partners. This strength is quiet. It lives in the dark hours before the world opens its eyes. And it's built not in front of others, but in the exact moments when no one's around to see. That's where real discipline is born. Not in the gym with cameras on, not during deadline week with pressure pushing you, but in the still mornings, in the small hours when you choose to show up simply because you said you would. That's where most people fall short. Because it's easy to give your best when someone's watching. It's easy to rise when applause is promised. But who are you when there's no audience? No one checking? No instant reward? The answer to that question shapes everything else in your life. A friend of mine named Kevin answered that question without ever saying a word. He's not flashy. You'd never guess by looking at him that he's one of the most disciplined people I've ever known. He doesn't share his goals online, doesn't post pictures of progress, and doesn't wait for external motivation. But every morning, before the alarm rings, before his kids stir, before the streetlights flicker off, he's up. At the kitchen table, reading, journaling, planning, sometimes training, always intentional. I once asked him why he kept that rhythm, even during tough seasons. He smiled and said, "Because I don't want to live a life that depends on someone else holding me accountable." That sentence stuck with me, because it reminds us of something most people forget. The most dangerous version of inconsistency is the one that hides behind justification. No one will notice if I skip today. I'll start again next week. It's not urgent right now. One excuse at a time, and just like that, your edge is gone. Discipline built in silence becomes character. It becomes the unshakable core that guides your decisions when emotions try to override reason. You don't build confidence by making promises, you build it by keeping them. Especially when no one knows you made them in the first place. That's what Kevin does. And slowly, it's changed how people see him. Not because he demanded recognition, but because who he is now speaks louder than anything he could have said. That's the paradox. When you stop performing and start repeating, you become undeniable. Not instantly, but inevitably. The world may never clap for your morning routine. It might not reward your quiet workouts, your repeated drafts, your early rising, or your commitment to growth when it's inconvenient. But one day, it will feel the impact of all that effort you refuse to skip. That's why discipline matters most when the room is empty. Because that's where integrity is built. You become the kind of person who can trust yourself, who no longer depends on inspiration to act, who doesn't wait for permission to begin. That kind of person is rare and powerful. And it all starts with what you choose to do when no one's watching. If this part of the journey resonates with where you are right now, drop a comment below. Share your quiet habits, your daily commitment, Your silent wins. They matter more than you know. 2. Keep moving in silence and let the results speak for you. There's something powerful about not needing to announce your effort. In a world obsessed with visibility, where every step is posted, every plan is shared, and every accomplishment is framed for attention, the strongest move you can make is choosing quiet consistency. You don't have to prove your work to anyone. You don't have to update the world on your progress or narrate every phase of your journey. What you do in silence becomes your edge. Not because it's secret, but because it's sacred. While others are busy being seen, you are busy becoming. That difference matters more than you think. Results take time, and real transformation doesn't broadcast itself while it's happening. It matures in private, in hours that go unnoticed, in effort that doesn't trend. The temptation to showcase your growth is strong, especially when you're finally making progress. But the moment you start performing for praise, you shift the focus from the work to the reaction. And that shift quietly weakens your drive. Because now it's not about the process, it's about the performance. And consistency born from performance dies fast. True power comes from doing the work with no applause, no audience, no guarantee of reward, just a purpose. When you move in silence, you're not hiding. You're training, you're sharpening, you're aligning with something deeper than validation. And over time, that alignment builds clarity, emotional detachment, and mental strength. You no longer react to every comment. You no longer chase external approval. You no longer adjust your pace to impress. Instead, you settle into rhythm, a quiet, deliberate rhythm that compounds. The world may not notice the change right away. That's okay, because the results aren't loud at first, they whisper. And they only rise to the surface when the foundation is firm enough to hold them. You're not being overlooked, you're being refined. This is why silence is underrated. Not because it hides weakness, but because it protects growth. The beginning of any transformation is fragile. The roots aren't deep yet. The identity you're building is still forming. If you expose that too early, if you seek applause before you're truly grounded, one storm can knock everything over. But if you move quietly, if you respect the silence, if you embrace the discipline of private progress, you give yourself the space to grow into something stable, something solid, something real. Quiet consistency becomes quiet confidence, and quiet confidence is unshakable. So let the others talk, let them post, let them sprint in all directions. You don't need to compete with noise. What you're building doesn't need defending, it just needs doing. Your routines, your training, your thoughts, they are not for performance, they are for refinement. And every day you return to the process without demanding a reaction, you grow stronger. Not just in skill, but in identity. The person who moves in silence isn't invisible, he's undeniable. Because when the results arrive, and they will, they speak so clearly that no explanation is needed. You don't have to warn anyone about your rise. You don't need to defend your discipline. Your progress will do the talking. It will show up in how you walk, how you speak, and how you think. It will show how you stay grounded when others lose control, how you stay ready when others scramble. You will feel the difference before the world sees it. And by the time they see it, it will be too late to ignore. Because nothing is louder than results born from quiet conviction. Move silently. Build daily. And let time carry your voice further than volume ever could. 3. Protect 1 hour of deep focus. It's more powerful than 10 hours of hustle. The truth is, you don't need more time. You need more depth. In a world that worships busyness, we've confused motion with progress and effort with direction. People rush through 12-hour days, juggling tasks, checking boxes, reacting to noise, yet end the day with nothing real built. The secret isn't in doing more, it's in doing less but deeper. 1 hour of undistracted, high-intention focus often outperforms a full day of fragmented hustle. But to access that kind of power, you must protect it like something sacred. Because the world will try to steal it. Your phone, your inbox, other people's urgency, all of it will pull you away from the one thing that actually moves your life forward. And if you don't claim that hour first, the day will claim it for you. This is where deep focus becomes a form of self-respect. It's a clear signal that your vision matters enough to fight for. that you're no longer letting your schedule be a reflection of distraction, but a tool of transformation. You don't need a perfect setting or a full morning off. What you need is to carve out 1 hour and guard it. Not half-focused, not half-trying, full attention. 1 hour to think, to build, to write, to study, to refine. And not just occasionally, but daily. Because the moment you turn this into a habit, everything changes. Your mind stops operating in panic and begins to operate in presence. You stop chasing tasks and start owning results. That kind of clarity isn't given, it's earned, one focused session at a time. And yes, there will be resistance. Some days you won't feel ready. The tasks outside your door will seem louder. But this is the test. Discipline in the digital age isn't about how much you can do. It's about how well you can focus when the world demands your attention. If you can reclaim even a small piece of time and give it your full energy, you've already separated yourself from most people. And over time, those hours compound. The book gets written, the skill gets sharper, the identity gets stronger, and what seemed impossible from the outside begins to feel inevitable from within. What's most important isn't the length of the hour, it's the quality. An hour filled with intention, presence, and full engagement becomes a force multiplier. You may not see the result after day 1 or week 1, but you will feel it. A subtle shift in how you think, how you speak, and how you handle pressure. That's the sign that something real is forming beneath the surface. That's the reward of consistency without spectacle. When you prioritize depth over quantity, you start to move with precision. You stop leaking energy into distractions. You stop burning time on low-value effort, and you begin to build from a place of stillness, not stress. There's something deeply grounding about knowing you gave 1 solid hour to your future. No noise, no interruptions, no excuses. That kind of hour rewires how you relate to time itself. It trains you to lead your day, not follow it. So if your life feels scattered, unfocused, or stuck in cycles of false urgency, start here. Start with 1 quiet hour. No matter how busy your world is, that hour is yours to claim. You don't need permission, motivation, or the perfect plan. You need the courage to begin and the discipline to return. 1 hour of deep focus, done daily, will do more for your growth, your goals, and your peace of mind than any marathon of shallow effort ever could. Guard it well, build within it, and let that single hour shape the rest of your life. 4. Don't wait for inspiration. Repeat until you become the masterpiece. Most people wait. They wait for the right mood, the right moment, the perfect wave of inspiration to crash in and push them forward. They wait for the feeling to arrive before taking action. But inspiration, though beautiful, is unreliable. It's not a foundation, it's a spark. And a spark alone will never carry you through the long, silent hours where progress is made. The ones who master their craft, the ones who create impact, the ones who rise beyond the noise, they don't wait to feel ready. They act, they repeat, they return, over and over again, even when it's boring, even when it feels pointless, especially when no magic shows up, because they've learned the secret. Repetition makes the masterpiece, not talent, not motivation, not good weather, just quiet, relentless, deliberate repetition. The most resilient growth happens in repetition without recognition. It's in the mornings when you sit at the desk and nothing flows, but you write anyway. It's in the evenings when your mind feels dull, but you still rehearse, you still refine, you still train. Not because it feels inspiring, but because it's who you're becoming. Waiting for the perfect mood is the fastest way to never start. You begin to tie your progress to emotion. And when emotion disappears, which it always will, you stop. That's when discipline must replace desire. That's when you learn that doing the thing imperfectly beats not doing it at all. And in that process, something shifts. You begin to develop trust in yourself, not because every attempt is brilliant, but because you keep showing up. It's easy to convince yourself that if today's work doesn't feel great, it's not worth doing. But mastery doesn't live in greatness. It lives in the grind. In the awkward, clumsy, half-broken attempt you stack quietly each day. What you repeat becomes who you are. And when you repeat what matters, even when no one's watching and nothing feels exciting, you are becoming powerful in ways the world cannot yet see. That's how skill is sharpened. That's how identity is built. through repetition that reshapes your mind, your hands, and your instincts. Not instantly, but inevitably. The breakthrough doesn't happen because of one magical moment of clarity. It happens because you built 1,000 quiet reps beneath it. When someone calls you gifted, what they're really seeing is the result of private effort they never witnessed. The truth is, most people give up before repetition has a chance to work. They expect every day to feel meaningful. They chase novelty. But the man who masters himself knows better. He doesn't need every day to feel amazing. He just needs to stay the course. Day after day, even when the progress is invisible, even when nothing seems to change. The process is slow. The progress is subtle. But it's building. Beneath the surface, where others give up, you're still planting, still returning, still shaping something others will one day call extraordinary. Not because of luck, not because of genius, but because you chose to repeat the work others found too dull to finish. The man who repeats becomes the man who rises. He doesn't wait for momentum, he builds it. He doesn't wait for alignment, he creates it. And when the world finally notices, they won't understand what it took, but you will. You'll know it was built on repetition, quiet, steady, ruthless, and that's why it lasts. If you're tired of chasing feelings, if you're ready to create something real, start repeating what matters. Not once, not when it's easy. Every day. Let the ritual reshape you. Let the silence strengthen you. Repeat until you become the masterpiece. 5. Track every step so you never forget how far you've come. Progress often feels invisible while it's happening. You move forward, but the mirror doesn't change. You show up every day, but the breakthrough doesn't arrive. And in those moments of stillness, when nothing feels like it's shifting, it's easy to forget the effort you've already put in. That's where doubt creeps in. That's when people quit. Not because they aren't improving, but because they can't see the proof. But here's the truth. Growth that isn't tracked often goes unnoticed, even by the person living it. That's why keeping a simple record of your daily actions isn't just useful, it's essential. Not for perfection, not for metrics, but for perspective. Because without it, your progress becomes forgettable. And what you forget, you stop believing in. When you don't track, your mind tends to default to criticism. You tell yourself you're behind, not doing enough, or stuck in place. But when you start documenting even the smallest steps, what you did, how you felt, what you overcame, you build a timeline of effort. That record becomes your evidence. It reminds you of where you began, how far you've come, and how many invisible battles you've already won. This is not about bragging or chasing external validation. It's about grounding yourself in the truth. You've already done more than you think. And when you write it down, it becomes real, tangible, encouraging. On hard days, your own history becomes your motivation. When energy is low, when progress seems flat, when doubt whispers in your ear, that notebook, that tracker, that small log becomes your response. You don't need to guess whether you've improved. You can see it, you can point to it, you can feel it. That's how you push through emotional reactivity and regain mental clarity. That's how you stop overthinking and start staying grounded in what is, not what your feelings claim. And no, the record doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need a complex app or an elaborate system. A pen and paper will do. A short sentence, a note on your phone. What matters is the habit, not the format. When you track your actions, you begin to treat your time with more intention. You start to notice patterns, when you're focused, when you're drifting, when your energy spikes, when your discipline dips. These insights let you adjust, refine, and evolve with awareness. You become more than a doer. You become a strategist. More importantly, your log becomes a weapon against false narratives. When your mind tells you you're not making progress, you have a page full of evidence that says otherwise. When others doubt your direction, you no longer explain. You just keep moving, backed by your own data. It builds quiet confidence. It teaches you emotional independence. It reminds you that growth doesn't always look impressive, but it always adds up. Slowly, steadily, in the silence that most people overlook. You can't rely on memory alone. Memory fades, emotions distort, but written truth stays solid. And when you keep that truth in front of you, you protect your peace from the chaos of doubt. You stop chasing the feeling of accomplishment and start tracking the facts of effort. That shift is subtle, but it's everything. Because once you realize how far you've already come, it becomes harder to quit and easier to keep going. So write it down. Every win, every setback, every tiny move forward. Let your own words tell the story that your doubt tries to erase. Let your progress speak in black ink, not just blurry memory. You're not stuck, you're building, and the record you keep is the proof that matters most. 6. Build your fortress quietly, before the world even notices. Not all transformations begin with a big announcement. Some of the most powerful changes happen in complete silence. No audience, no pressure, no timeline. Just a quiet decision made in private, followed by steady action day after day. I saw this up close in my own family. My aunt, already past her 60th birthday, made a choice after retiring, one that no one expected. She wanted to study interior design. Not to get a degree, not to impress anyone, simply because it sparked something inside her. And she didn't tell us. She didn't share it online. She didn't ask for support or validation. Every morning she sat at the same table, opened her laptop and began learning. Slowly, patiently, module by module. She printed designs, built models from cardboard, and watched tutorials until her eyes were tired. There was no rush, no pressure, only progress. And no one knew. Not until a year later, when friends visited her home and were stunned by the transformation. The space felt like it had been touched by a professional. But when they asked who designed it, she simply smiled and said, "I did." That's the kind of quiet power the world underestimates, because we've been conditioned to associate growth with display. If no one sees the effort, it must not be real. But the opposite is true. The strongest growth is the kind that doesn't need to be witnessed to be validated. It happens in private, not to prove a point, but to build a life. And when it finally emerges, it doesn't need to shout. It simply shows. Because results built in silence are rooted in truth. They weren't constructed for applause. They were forged through solitude, effort, and intention. When you build your own fortress quietly, you're choosing something rare: self-alignment. You're not reacting to trends. You're not bending your schedule to fit in. You're choosing to rise on your own terms. That kind of decision reshapes your identity from the inside out, because every quiet hour you spend building becomes a brick in the foundation of something unshakable. You begin to respect yourself more, not because others praise you, but because you witness your own consistency. You begin to walk with more clarity, not because someone handed you confidence, but because you earned it through repetition. And over time, your quiet actions start to echo. Not with noise, but with weight. The kind of weight that can't be faked, that can't be bought, that can't be borrowed. People will ask how you did it, how you changed, how you got so sharp, so centered, so steady. But you'll know the answer lives in the hours they never saw. The mornings when you showed up, even when no one expected you to. The days when you worked not for attention, but for mastery. The moments when you chose to plant seeds instead of seeking praise. That's where your power came from. And by the time they notice, you'll already be different. Not just better at something, but better. Period. This is why you don't need to broadcast your journey. You don't need to justify your path. The world will catch up eventually, and when it does, you'll be ready. Not because you waited for permission, but because you built when no one else was watching. Your transformation isn't a moment, it's a fortress. And you've laid it down quietly, brick by brick. You don't owe anyone the blueprint, you just keep building. And when the day comes where it all stands tall, unshakable and complete, the only person you'll need to thank is the one who kept going in silence. You. 7. Turn boredom into power, and nothing can shake you. We tend to think that power comes from action, movement, and excitement. But what if the real source of strength lies in the dull moments? What if the real test isn't in how inspired you feel, but in how consistent you stay when the spark fades? Most people quit not because life gets too hard, but because it gets too repetitive. The routines become predictable, the tasks feel dry, and the mind starts searching for something new, something louder, faster, more exciting. But here's the truth. Boredom is not your enemy, it's your threshold. And the person who learns to stay present through it, to move anyway, to show up despite the lack of novelty, develops a kind of mental strength that becomes nearly unbreakable. Boredom strips away distractions. It reveals the real reason you started. It forces you to face the work, not the praise, not the recognition, just the practice. And that is where mastery begins. Because anyone can start a new project with energy. Anyone can chase a passion when everything feels fresh and exciting. But few can keep going when the days blur together and the rewards are nowhere in sight. The consistent repetition, the unglamorous hours, the grind that feels like nothing is changing. That is the soil where transformation happens. Every discipline has its plateau. Whether you're training your body, sharpening your mind, building a skill, or healing from something painful, you will eventually face a stretch of days that feel empty. No fireworks, no progress you can measure, just you and the process. And what you choose to do during that phase defines everything. Most people bail. They try something new. They abandon the slow and silent growth in favor of the next temporary thrill. But the few who stay, they tap into a different kind of power, the power of depth. Boredom is misunderstood. It's not a signal to stop, it's a doorway. On the other side of it is focus so sharp, so calm, that even chaos can't disturb it. But to reach that side, you must stay still long enough to silence the inner noise, long enough to let go of the need for constant stimulation, long enough to realize that stability, true emotional grounding, lives in repetition, not in variety. In this way, boredom becomes a form of emotional resistance training. It strengthens your ability to stay present without needing something external to energize you. It trains you to generate your own momentum. It teaches you that the mind doesn't need more excitement, it needs more clarity. And clarity is born in stillness, not stimulation. The world today is addicted to noise. People confuse busyness with progress and drama with depth. But those who quietly engage in their craft every day, especially when it feels stale, are the ones who build inner structures that nothing external can shake. The power you earn through boredom is the kind of power that doesn't depend on motivation. It's rooted in choice, in discipline, in self-trust. So the next time you feel bored with your routine, don't run. Sit in it, lean into the repetition, observe your thoughts, watch how your mind begs for distraction, and then choose to stay. Choose to keep going. Because if you can learn to create without needing excitement, to stay sharp without needing praise, to keep showing up through the silence, you've already won. Not just a small victory, but a rare kind of dominance, the kind that outlasts trends, survives setbacks, and walks steadily while others burn out. This is how you turn boredom into power. Not by avoiding it, but by honoring it. Not by changing your path every time things feel flat, but by deepening your presence right where you are. That's the quiet work that makes you unshakable. And in a world that's constantly chasing the next thing, that kind of steadiness isn't just rare. It's unstoppable. Consistency is not about being perfect. It's about showing up even when no one's watching, even when motivation fades, even when the progress feels invisible. The real transformation begins when you train your emotional discipline to stay calm in the routine, when you rewire your mind to focus not on instant rewards but on long-term self-mastery. Through daily habits like deep focus, silent growth, and tracking your progress, you build mental strength that can't be shaken by distraction, failure, or self-doubt. This is how emotional resilience is built. Quietly, repeatedly, powerfully. You don't need to chase validation or wait for the right moment. You just need to start, then keep going. Because the most grounded people are not the loudest, they're the most consistent. They've learned to grow through stillness, protect their clarity, and control their emotions in the Stoic way. They've mastered their inner dialogue and transformed self-doubt into quiet confidence. If this message spoke to you, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. What keeps you grounded when things get hard? What daily habit changed your life? I'd love to hear it. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more timeless insight.